Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to be doing another video by Puffin Forest. This one is going to be D&D 4E. I'm going with 4th edition there. Was a game. Memories from an older D&D edition. Oh yeah, definitely 4E. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. I just got into D&D. It's been 5th edition for a while, and I've only ever once played 5th edition, so I don't really know what was so bad about 4th edition, but if the memes, the commentary, the testimonials, and everyone I know going, God, no, don't look at it. I know the books are cheap. There's a reason for that. Don't pick them up. If any of that has to go by, I'm scared. I heard it was terrible, horrible, evil. It made people actually like 3.5 because they didn't before as much, and then they were grateful it wasn't 4th edition. I'm hoping the story I got that from is an exaggeration. I'm not sure it's an exaggeration. Before we do that, though, I need to say something very important. Well, two things, actually. One, fuck. It's a YouTube thing now. You gotta say it to prove you're not for kids, which this isn't. Also, Raid Shadow Legends has nothing to do with this video. I'm not sponsored at all. I just know there's like one person out there who just heard the word raid and was instantly enraged and probably missed the rest of that. You're welcome, Mom. Yeah, the joke is there. My mom wouldn't listen to my voice, which is a good thing, because some of the jokes I make, she would probably murder me if she actually listened to. You know, thinking that through, I'm sure that's a joke. I hope that's a joke. I really hope that's a joke. It's really not. Moving on, we're just going to get started because I'm really curious to see what this one is, because I know nothing about 4th edition, and knowing how Ben usually plays, let's go with whimsical characters and is a batshit evil GM. Yeah, that sounds accurate. I really want to see what the hell he did in the system that was so... I don't even know what. It just is so. That's all I know about. It's so something. Let's go find out. You guys know the drill. Link below, original video. You've already hit it up? Great. Let's get started.
I had a conversation with some of my other friends recently about 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, they're going
when
back
they saw
to
me
it.
hauling in a big stack of them. I had ordered some old D&D books
Oh,
because I saw
God,
them
I
online
remember
for,
those.
like just a few bucks a piece.
They're pretty cheap
Apparently,
now.
No one wanted them. The current
They're like
edition of
$2
D&D
in
is
half-price
5th,
books.
which came out about 5 years ago and
Oh,
replaced
it's
it.
really been that long.
Why'd you order those? Just for nostalgia. You know, I used to play it a lot when I first got into D&D. It was actually my first edition. Really, a lot of people don't talk about it because it just wasn't that popular. The fact that I started with 4th edition is very unusual.
Huh.
Most people either started with 3.5 or they're later and began with 5th edition.
Oh.
Because 4th edition was kind of a low point in D&D's popularity.
I'm kind of
There
curious
just
why
weren't
exactly.
as many new people coming to the hobby then. Older
mean,
D&D
I'm getting
fans
into
felt
5,
it was
so-
a betrayal, deriding it at every opportunity. And there's a lot of snobbery with that sometimes. 4th edition was kind of taboo to talk about for a while, and just because it was so controversial and divisive that online conversations
He's leading up to
would
it, but I
evolve.
want to see
If you've
why.
been online before, you
At
know
least
what
in
I'm
his
talking about.
opinion.
You know how that can happen. Especially with games that have these long dedicated fan bases.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
no,
kind of the black sheep
I know
of
what
the
that's
family.
like.
Older players preferred older edition, and newer players preferred 5th edition. It sort of went off on its own. But that was kind of the great thing about it. It was so unusual. It took a lot of risks. This is the 4th edition video. Also, I just want to say up front, this really isn't like a review of Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition. This is just me talking about my memories and my experience playing with it.
Okay.
So,
See, I was actually kind of hoping for a
anyway,
mini review
there's that.
alongside, but I'll
So,
take
yeah.
this too.
On to the video. This is it. Originally, the way I had gotten
Also, I
into
like how he
Dungeons & Dragons was
specifically
online
animated that
D&D
really well, just to
videos.
point out
People
that
would tell
fact.
their stories online. I go, oh, hey, what game is that? That sounds really cool.
That's
I
literally
remember the first
what I
time
got into it
played
for.
D&D. I was looking forward to this game for the longest time. Finally got a chance to play it, and man, I just absolutely
Bombed.
hated it. Oh my god.
Damn.
Don't get me wrong, I loved role-playing and getting into character and running through the dungeon. That part was really fun, but man, the combat just dragged. It was so
Ugh.
slow and painful, and you didn't have any meaningful choices, and everyone had this rigid character class that restricted what they could do, and the fights were just not fun.
I'm suddenly understanding why
Although
people didn't
also,
like it.
I should mention we had 8 players, and everyone was new, so yeah, there's that. Eventually, the group shrunk down to a more manageable 4 to 5 players.
8?
And after that first session, we still all had fun hanging out, and we
No,
said,
no. We're gonna break that down. I mean, I've done Magic the Gathering games that are 8 players. That's a much faster game than D&D. A fast game of D&D is hours. A fast game of Magic is, depending on the format, anywhere from 30 seconds. Yeah, they can get that short if you really know what you're doing. To an hour. And that's just with 4 people. Maybe. The one game I played with 8 players took 3 hours. We made it to turn 2. And then someone had an infinite combo because BS happened along the way and it ended. And we all were like, you know what? I can counter that. I'm not going to. It works. It's over. It's done. 8 players in D&D in what seems like a combat system that takes forever. And oh, God, yes, you shorten it down, but I got to question your sanity getting into an 8-player game. I'm looking at all the tables he talks about earlier, and like, oh, hey, 90 players, but they're all broken into their own tables. 8 on a single. I can't tell if you're a complete mad lad for even trying, or you're insane for having done it. Both? Both. Yeah, let's go with both. Oh my God.
Yeah, it'll be more fun once we learn the system and figure out what's going on. 2 months later, we were still struggling with it. But we're like, yeah, just give it some more time. We're new to this. Until,
Much later.
we've really only been playing for like a year. Now's the time when we really know what we're doing. Up until the last session I played, could not tell you what was going on in that game. I played 4th edition for over a year and a half, and the entire time, if you would pause the game, it would be like, explain to me what's going on in this scene. I could not give you a straight answer. It was just way too complicated to tell. I played a few sessions of 3.5 at the same time when I was playing 4th edition, and let me tell you, I was playing a dwarf fighter. I remember I'd pull out my bow, and I'd fire a shot, and roll damage, and that was it. In 4th edition, I would pull out my mace, run up to someone, and smack someone with my mace and give my ally +3 to their next attack power.
Wait, what?
But then as I approached, I'd be in their aura from their frost armor, which is forming crystals in my limbs, giving me a -1 penalty to the attack roll. But wait, he's also standing next to his portal he's open to the nether realms, and inky black tendrils are wrapping around him, giving a +1 bonus to his AC. But in response, one of my buddies has cast a small miniature sun, partially blinding everyone in 2 square bursts.
I see why it
AC
took so
-1.
long.
So when I go
It's
in
just
to make my
stacking
attack,
bonus
he
on
uses
stacking
immediate
bonus
to
on
swap with
stacking
his ally
bonus
next to
with
him, taking
elemental
the blow.
effect and-
Aha. But then his fire burst armor goes off, triggering me to get a blast
I mean,
of fire.
it's
But
cool
wait
in a
minute,
video
a
game
fighter
where
is
all the
marked and
stats are
triggering
managed
his
by
immediate
the
attack whenever
system,
an enemy
but
makes a move.
dear
The warlock
God,
is
if you have to do this in
claws, which are special
person,
claws that levitate above his head in the air. If
you
move,
almost
take another
require
additional 3 points
like
of
an
damage.
AI
But
system to
wait a minute,
manage
the enemy
this.
shaman has a
If you
summon a
did,
flaming
yeah, it's
chariot, which
doable,
gets
but
moved every
oh
square to 2 points of
God.
fire damage. If you draw a new weapon in your next turn, then you're going to take another 2 points of damage. This is supposed to be an introductory game! Or at least, that's the way it should go down. Really, what would happen is, I would run up, bop someone for 4 points of damage, and then a turn or two later, someone would say, wait a second, wasn't my miniature son there? Didn't he have a penalty? Hey, wait, he had an immediate move. Wait, if he had an immediate move,
Yeah.
didn't I have an attack? In that
They have a
situation,
really
there are
good
no
system that
actions.
needs an
If you
AI to
rewind
do it.
fix the fight,
That's
it
definitely what it
feels
sounds.
unfair.
And they
If you just
rewinded.
play it out, it feels like you got cheated out of a fight.
In other words,
As if
oh
you won
God, you
because
need
of
like a
accident.
stack,
Our
like an
combat was
actual
always like one step
whiteboard,
forward,
just to
2
remember
steps
everything
back.
you got to have
Go
on there.
back and forth on initiative, making sure that all the abilities went off. Or worse, wait a second.
Maybe
I
the
was supposed
social
to
aspect
have
of the
a
game,
+2
like
bonus
talking and
this whole
charisma, would be more
time.
fun.
Can I roll damage for 5 attacks that should have hit? And once again, I get it. As 5th edition has that a bit. But there's 1 or 2 things you got to keep in mind. In 4th, there's so many. But because
Is
every
that a
character
chainsaw?
enemy could put down its own 1-round stat
Or was that
effect,
like a can
there's
of
a ton
lighter
stuff
fluid?
to
I don't
keep
honestly
track of.
know.
And also, guess what? It didn't matter because the fights were so easy that if you've got a bunch of damage bonuses, you'd still win anyways.
Seriously?
But that was more how we were running it.
Oh.
In 4th edition, they kind of didn't really have spells. They had powers. Every single character had about the same number of at-will, encounter, and daily powers. Each power would have different cooldown periods to wait before you get it back. They've streamlined a few of the mechanics to make them simpler, but then added a flood of other ones. So the rinse and repeat of combat took a long time. I remember
pass.
finishing combat and just being relieved, like,
This
it's over.
does feel more like
Like,
combat as
instead
a
of being
punishment.
excited, yeah, get
Also, I
some.
love how they have them
It'd
like
be
with the
if
one
you were at the
leg
dentist's
down, or like the
office
one eyelid
waiting
down,
for
just to make it
an hour
work
or
worse.
two, and your name finally gets called, and you're not thinking to yourself, "Woo, yeah!" It's more like, finally. That ended up hurting
Yeah,
the role-playing
that's,
and narration. Instead of a player saying, "I offer up a vengeful prayer to my god, which dispels the warlock's hex," we just say, "Okay, this thing gives him a -2, and this thing gives him a +2."
So they even gave up on
just say
role
they
playing because
cancel.
they were so tired
We'd
of just
boil
doing
things
it.
down to their numbers. Instead of blessings of Keratos be upon you, it'd be that's a 6. It's just a +6, just a 6. Just take your 6. If no one did start narrating, we'd be like, we ain't got time for that. Get your monologuing out of here, Dave. You're in a line. And there's 25 other things that need to resolve before your turn ends. And even if you did start narrating and describing your powers, crashing irons of 1,000 memories. Initially, it sounds really cool, but by like the 37th time you used your power, just be like, 15 to hit. That's a hit. That's 2d6 damage, and he's stunned for 1 round. Or you'd have some power that sounded pretty cool,
Doable,
like
but
summon your
yeah,
shadow,
when he
stab
does
some
take
guy in
out
the
all
back
like
for 3
the
points of damage.
narration,
But
you
the
can
system
tell
was
the
pretty
game would be a
rigid.
lot more.
It's not like you had like a shadow familiar. You had a power which said that you could use your shadow to stab someone in the back for 3 points of damage, and that was it. Which, to be honest, spells in D&D do have that kind of problem where they're too specific sometimes. Occasionally, a system will have it written, you have a shadow and can use it to do a variety of things.
That sounds
Yada,
abusable.
yada, one of which includes stabbing someone in the back for 3 points of damage, which allows for variety. But
Just make sure you always have a shadow.
Like
Bigger
that.
shadow.
If you
bigger
had
things.
a variety of powers, you'd think, ooh, that's a lot of choice. Really, that's not how it turned out. You just start from your most powerful ability and just go down the list to the weakest, and then whenever they came off cooldown, you just rinse and repeat. Because each time you can only use it once. Which meant that in a fight, you'd use powers A, B, and C. Sometimes you'd use
So
B,
basically,
A, C,
the
or
old-fashioned World of
CBA.
Warhammer.
Ooh. But it always had to be a combination
Warcraft,
of those three. You could only use them once.
method of, okay,
The
I
only
got
other
my
strategy was,
abilities,
like,
I'm just going to manage to
don't target
cooldown
the
and
one-hit
switch
point
through
minions
them,
with your heavy
and
spells. Save that for the
vroom.
boss. But that was kind of it.
I was never good
There
at
was some
Warcraft,
strategy with positioning, like,
but yeah, I
this
saw a lot of
enemy
people who
has a
were.
flame aura. Who's going to stand next to him? Not the wizard. That was it. Now you know all you need to succeed in 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons combat. Congratulations. The biggest challenge was
I
always
think
remembering
just the
rules
look of
of the game
despair on
anyway.
those faces sounds
We had
about
this
accurate. I
2-hour
haven't even
long
played it, and
slugfest
I'm
that we
kind
had
of
to wade
agreeing.
through, sometimes up to 3 to 4 hours. There was one time I was away going to a job interview. I came back halfway through. Still with my work suit on, I enter in, up at the top of the stairs. And this is what I come in to see. One of the players is sleeping, snoring loudly. Another player has his 3DS out and is playing a game. One person is on her phone. Another player is trying to stay awake, but his arms are folded. Head is down, but I know.
Please
he's
don't tell me
sleeping.
they forgot it was
The
his turn,
DM
just
is
moved
rolling
on.
through all the effects, writing down notes. Okay, this is this. Ice effect is over. He saves against the poison. There's a -1 still on him. The mark condition is down.
At some point, you just say house rules don't matter,
Sleeping guy wakes up. Okay.
or
He picks
house
up his
rules do
dice.
matter. All
He
of the
rolls.
effects are gone.
14. That's a miss. Okay. And he goes back to sleep. The DM finally notices that I'm there. He's too busy with combat and says, "Hey guys, Ben's here." Yay. They gave an anemic hello. And I had this realization, like,
that's
this
terrifying.
is what we look like. I came here voluntarily. Like, I didn't have to come here. This was my Saturday. We'd play from noon to midnight. Like, I can't believe I don't have other stuff to do. I was unemployed at the time and didn't actually have
done
better
that.
things to do. I didn't even get into
Well,
the fact
yeah.
that the monsters also have abilities as well, coming on and off cooldowns. With a lot of enemies, their big selling point is that they can take hits to really sell the player's abilities and powers. So giving monsters a bunch of powers does not make the PCs feel any more heroic. If a player has a power that lets them knock an enemy into the air and throw 10 daggers into their
Nice.
chest, they feel pretty cool. But if all the enemies have that stuff, it doesn't feel fun. And
And it
it's
just
not
looks
even
like
fun
little
for the
kids
DM to run
throwing
through it.
daggers and knocking
It
them in
just
the
means
air.
there's more stuff he's got to worry
Oh,
about.
God.
Character creation was simple because they didn't let you make choices. When you were first making your character and leveling up,
Square
you got to
wooden
select
fake
new
eyes.
powers. Really, each class had 2 builds, and every power would usually work for one build or another. Like the cleric had 4 at-will powers, and you can pick 2. But 2 of them work
I
for
think
the
this is
mace,
just
and the
hammering
other
home.
2 work
I'm
long
glad I
range.
started in
So
5th
if you
because
used the mace,
this
you would pick the first 2.
this
If you
sounds
didn't,
painful.
You'd pick the other 2. So the choice would be, do I take this power which synergizes with my build?
He did
or
this
do
for
I
an
take
entire
this
year.
power that I can't use is completely
I'm
useless.
actually not entirely sure I respect that, or I'm
Decisions.
absolutely in awe
What
of
was
his
worse for me
persistence
was
because
I
this
played as a war priest, which
it-
they don't even get to
it's
pick
just so
powers.
hard
They
to
select the
imagine
domain and
enjoying
automatically get
this.
abilities.
I mean,
When
that's
they
entirely
level
why
up,
he
the
said
game
this is what we
selects
look like
powers
thing,
you
but
have. There is almost no choices past first level. Stats were another
Seriously?
thing as well. Almost all of your abilities would use one of your primary stats.
only
If a paladin swung a sword with a power, that was charisma to hit and charisma to damage. A warlock might cast his spells using constitution. Constitution to hit and constitution to damage.
that's
So you would get nothing from putting ranks in any other stat. There would be a secondary one where you'd get some secondary benefits. Woo! But this entire concept of mixing and matching stats.
I know he
different
said he
builds,
wasn't doing a
that wasn't
review,
thing.
but
we didn't do that.
I think
You put ranks in your
functionally he's
primary
doing a
stat,
really
you were good at
unfortunately
everything.
good job of
If you
reviewing
didn't,
it.
You weren't.
Oh,
Then there was
God.
the party roles. Really, there were only actually 4 different characters. Controller, leader, defender, and striker. A class in 4th edition was just kind of like a reskinning
Controller?
of the base 4 characters.
Oh.
I remember I switched from playing as a cleric to a bard, and I'm like, a lot
God,
of these
the
abilities
face.
are similar, because they're both leaders. They have similar powers, but with the names filed off, and some small changes. The powers are basically reshuffled around and dealt out again. I played as a cleric. We had a power called Healing Word, which would heal plus a d6 twice per encounter. A warlord had Inspiring Word, which would heal plus a d6 twice per encounter. A bard had Majestic Word, which would heal plus a d6
I'm sorry,
twice per
seriously?
encounter.
I mean, I thought it was just badly designed. This is just lazy design.
Between all the leaders, while the classes might have
I
specialized,
don't even think
in
he's
one thing or another,
exaggerating.
there was a lot of similarities. There was a lot of AC, temporary hit points.
This
being
is
given
literally
out,
the case of they probably
boosting,
fired everyone and said, hey, let's see if we can
attacks
just
or
throw out a new
lowering
edition and
damage.
see if they'll buy it.
Between the bard and cleric, it was like playing the same character over again. But that was how they were able to have dozens and dozens of different classes, is because they kind of recycled some of the similar
So in other words, they had a lot of
All
classes and they were all
defenders would have
useless and the
abilities
same
involving
thing. Just
marking.
change the
All
name.
controllers would have powers that move people around, and all strikers would have passives that boosted their damage.
I mean, there's
Just restated
similarities that are
between the different
fine, but
classes.
that
You notice
look.
also I'm just describing attack and combat powers. Really, most, if not all, of the powers were combat focused. Utility spells and abilities, like in 5th edition, were kind of not present in 4th edition. I mean,
Whoa.
technically they did have utility abilities, but when I say utility, I mean is that they were powers that were meant to be used outside of combat. They had rituals, which would cost 10 minutes to cast and would cost gold pieces. I remember those spells being too expensive to afford. One time in an emergency, we had to pool our gold together in order to cast Tensor's Floating Disc once during an emergency. But since they were costly, we tended to save our money and had to save them up for other magic items. That Tensor's Disc was the only time we cast a ritual spell. But that was also because we were playing in a low gold setting. These spells were either not in the
low
game,
gold, okay.
or if you didn't have the gold on hand, then you couldn't comprehend languages. You couldn't detect magic. You couldn't use Goodberry. No
Seriously?
Continual Flame,
All of that
no
required
Dark Vision,
gold?
No Detect Thoughts, no Summon Steed,
And
no Mending, no Animate Dead, no Enlarge, no Reduce, no Magic Mouth, no Silence, no Magic Circle, no Cure Disease, no Sound of Truth, no Rope Trick, no Illusory Script, no Jump, no Long Star, no Sending, no Glyph of Warding. And that is the most I'm going to do, because if I had to look all these up, it's going to take forever.
This is probably the most depressing screenshot I have ever seen from anything Puffin Forest related. It's literally just I want to do the cool thing, and the game is saying if I want to play it correctly, no. Just all the different, and it's not even all of them because he stopped. Again, I know he said it's not a review, but if this isn't saying, oh my god, I'm glad it's dead, I don't know what is. Also, I fully expect him to believe, like, I regret buying these except for nostalgia. Never going to think back about it again because the nostalgia goes away fast. Hell, I'm not even nostalgic for it. And I'm like, you know that sense of loss when you find something nostalgic and you realize you hate it? I never even liked it. And I'm getting that feeling of, oh, I wish I didn't hate it as much as I do now because I used to love it. And I never loved it. And oh my god. I can see why everyone went back to 3.5. It wasn't this. I don't even know what 3.5 was. And it wasn't this. This is actually kind of hard to watch, just seeing how bad, like just how hard to enjoy this had to be. Like the sheer death of fun. Oh my god, Puffin, I'm surprised you are still in D&D after this, man.
But you get the idea. Also, no multiclassing. If you
What?
decided to play a rogue at first level, then you were a rogue permanently. They had hybrid classing. Oh boy. There were a few problems with this.
Did it
One,
work?
you had to declare this at the beginning, during character creation. You couldn't play 3 levels and then be like, now I'm a hybrid. 2, it had to be exactly 50-50.
Seriously?
If you were 10th level, 5 were in one class, 5 were in the other.
Oh, that's...
And each time you leveled up, you picked a power from one. And then
Again,
picked a power
house
from
rules
the
had
other.
to be insane
Back
on
and
this.
forth. 3, it was a supplement. You had to go out and buy a secondary rulebook that gave you the special hybrid rules and special hybrid classes you could use for hybrid rules, and was
They
not
physically
allowed in
made
the
you
base
buy a book
rulebook.
just to be able to do this?
4, you could only hybrid 2 classes, no more. Not 3, not 4, 2, only 2. The system was so restrictive. It was not like multi-classing
I can
at all.
see why Pathfinder
Besides,
started because
why would you?
I'm pretty
The
sure it was
classes
basically just,
were not
hey, you know how
designed
Dungeons
to
& Dragons
synergize
4th
with other
edition's terrible?
classes.
We're
You
not.
had a secondary class.
I have
you
no
had
idea if
enough
that came
ranks
out
to
then,
make
but
you
I know a
terrible
lot
at
more
both.
people I know of
So
started
it's like
talking
they
about it
bring
around
out
that time.
this rule set and then punish
I don't
you
know
for
why I didn't
using
start
it.
playing D&D then.
Then
Oh yeah,
we
4th.
had skill challenges. Skill challenges.
Like, in real
In
life?
many of the other systems, the players would say, I want to lift this rock. And the DM goes, okay, that sounds like a strength check. And they'd roll and either they'd succeed or fail. They had those too. But also in 4th edition, you'd portray a scene such as, okay, the boat is sinking. There's all
Don't
these
say they
people
actually have to
on
do like
it. And
push-ups
there would
or
be a list of
something.
various activities that they could perform. In any other RPG, you would establish a scene and say, what are you guys doing? But that format didn't work well in skill challenges because players would say, I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. And you wouldn't have it on your sheet. And like that wasn't one of the rolling options.
So you have
The way it
limited
was
choices of what
supposed
to
be
do,
run,
even?
the players don't tell you what they're doing.
What's the
DM
fun?
tells them what they're doing. You say, here are the options that you can do. Bailing water over the side, carrying people to
It's like being in a
safety, or
restrictive,
doing medicine
badly
checks on
written
people,
video
or checking
game,
history to see if
without
there's
the
another place
advantage
to
of the
dock
video
boat.
game managing all the
And they can
options.
confirm. Now that raises the question, if you didn't like it, why didn't you just ignore what was written down? You don't have to do it.
Then
Yeah,
why would you do it
exactly.
anyways?
That's what would happen. You'd pull up the skill challenge, go, yeah, we're not doing that, and then completely ignore it.
Because it
That's
was
how a lot of people
stupid.
did
Yeah,
skill
that makes
challenges.
sense.
It'd be like if you were playing a choose your own adventure and they said, the players now take reeds from the side of the river and weave a raft to float downstream. Go to page 70. Or the players take cannonballs and use them to dam up the river so they can walk across. Go to page 39.
That's actually
The odds
fun.
that the players would say exactly that is unlikely. And if they don't, then you just ignore the rest of the challenge because the results assume they're going to be doing one
In
of
other
the
words, it
options.
makes the
And
entire
then they would try
module
and
useless if
involve
you're trying to
lesser-used
follow the
skills in weird
canon
ways.
storyline.
Like one time there were ghosts haunting a church.
Huh.
And the question was, how do you get rid of the ghosts?
Burn the
What
church
do
down.
you think is the primary skill used to get rid of ghosts?
Firestarter.
This made me so mad. It's
Salt.
thievery and dungeoneering. Because you say, I'm going to roll thievery. And if you succeed, the DM tells you, oh, hey, your character is looking around and he notices that because of his thievery, there's secret floorboard where there's skeletons.
How would
hidden.
you think
If
of
they rolled
that?
Thievery, you
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah,
have
that's
been
the
able to
problem.
find if you didn't roll the thievery. If you had rolled perception, that would have just let you notice the paintings on the wall.
Oh my god.
Also, you had to stay in initiative while doing the skill challenges. So the characters go up and talk to the king. I start talking because I'm the rogue, because my initiative is the highest, and there are paladin goes, etc. Like, that's not how conversations work. Or sometimes we'd figure out a thing
Isn't
and
talking-
it's like,
oh,
can someone
talking's probably a
make
free
history
action
check
now.
on this guy? I would, but I'm the wizard, and I'm going at the end of the skill challenge. The problem is, there was so much I didn't like with the game that I couldn't
wasn't worth
homebrew
playing
it to
then.
fix the problems. It's one
I
thing
mean, at
to
that
change
point, you're just
forward. That's
not
easy.
even doing it. Just say, hey,
There's another
we'll
thing
roll a
to change
d20
forward
and
to
whoever
mechanics.
gets.
Tricky, but a bit more doable. And it's another thing when your problematic rule is all of them. Well, most of them. Really, when you stop and think
Yeah.
about it, isn't every system just a homebrewed version of every other system? Really, none of my complaints that
Honestly,
I have are a
I
big
have to
deal
ask,
in and
is
of
D&D
themselves.
the first one that ever came up?
There's no one rule that I can point to that's a problem. I've played games with restrictive character creation, and it's been fine.
It just seems like
And
it was
I've played in
everything
games
was
with heavy
kind of
combat.
bad.
That's not a problem. And the fact that combat can kind of get repetitive and there's nothing much you can
Okay,
do
you made it
outside
sound
of
a lot worse than
there's
kind
a lot
of.
other RPGs that I've played that have the same problem. Even the fact that they don't let you multi-class, it isn't a big deal. Or that
The
they
restrictive thing does,
recycle
though,
powers
like
between only
if someone's
4 base
falling
characters,
asleep and going
or
back to
even
sleep
the
for
fact that
fun,
they force you to take certain powers with different classes. That's not a problem. But
Here
the
it is.
fact that you have long repetitive combat in a combat-focused game where there's only 4 base characters using restrictive powers which are recycled between different characters that you're required to take
And
without
different
allowing
names for those
multiclassing
base
with
characters
generic
and
fights
no
nothing you can do
differences.
outside of combat, that's a problem.
See, the rage
If
I'm
they
feeling
just
right now, just
fixed a
imagining
few
it
of these
through him
things, it wouldn't have
talking,
been an
I
issue.
don't even want to know how
Having
annoying
recycled
this
powers
must have
is
been.
fine, but not when you're
Like,
required
I fully
to
expect
take
him to
them and you don't
regret
have any
making
other
this video just from
customizability.
remembering it.
And having a combat-focused game is fine as long as the combat's fun. But it's not. You know, it's funny. I went in the script like, Puffin talks about fourth, and my memory
Nice stuff to
This'll
stay.
be fun.
Called it.
And I pulled out the
Stay,
book and I
not
started reading
stay.
through it. I really did not want to give this game a negative video because I feel that it got a lot of hate when it came out. There's a
And
lot
it
of
seems like it
divisiveness
deserved it.
Whenever people hate or love
Like
a
the
thing,
cover
and it
art.
creates factions. I didn't want to feed into that. And I just wanted to talk about my memories playing the game. But
But all the memories are tinged
I
with remembering
just
it.
went back through the system again, and all the memories came back. And by the time I got to the end of the script, it really ended up being like, Puffin complains about 4th edition for like however long this video is. Because I don't
Oh
have a
god,
lot
he's
of
trying to
positive things to say
exercise
about
it.
Like, man, there's a reason people didn't play this game, you know? It's not only that, but I'm having to cut material out. Like, half the script is just ending up on the cutting room floor, and it's still the longest script I've ever written. So when people were pointing to Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which is a new system that came out this year, saying it's very similar to 4th Edition, I'm like, oh god, no, please, god, no.
Why?
Let me be clear. I've played a few games of Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
It's not?
It has borrowed a few mechanics from D&D 4e. Same as 5th Edition.
Not the bad
but they're
ones?
still very different systems. So that brings me back to my original thing. Why did I buy all the books? You know, the system's still pretty cool. I mean,
The art's cool.
Powers, they're
I mean,
pretty awesome.
yeah, look at that. That
And
is
magic
awesome art.
items were helpful
But
once a day because you could only use the magic items once per day. And the feats, were there, and they gave you like a 9 or bonus on certain niche things, and actually they were nerfed so hard they didn't really come into play that much. And despite all that,
He's going to end the video by throwing these away, isn't he?
Still like 4th edition. And it's not just because of nostalgia, of memories of friends hanging out. It's only like 99% because of that. See, there's still like 1%
well, another
of other
percent.
reasons. Like
They're cool-looking books. He can't remember, can he?
Formatting. I like how the book is formatted.
Called it.
It's a very readable book.
Like I said, he likes the actual physical book.
Until you found out that you used your most powerful ability on them. Hey, playing off of the monster's powers was kind of fun, and they were varied. Very few enemies just kind of ran
He's
at you.
struggling to find nice
sword.
things to say.
Monster rolls and groups were kind of cool, even though they were kind of horrendously frustrating and slowed down combat. Also, we probably did run it wrong. I mean, they're not the easiest to run, but like
at some point, you just say, we're going to screw around, do what we want, it'll be fine.
God, if you can't learn a system after playing it for over a year, like, it kind of feels like it's a little bit the fault of the system, maybe a little bit. I think a big part about why the problems didn't get solved was we, the players, kept expecting the DM to make the fights more manageable, and he was kind of expecting us to take our turns faster and so on. And so we kept thinking that it's someone else's fault. And
also, I'm kind of jealous this guy's
never got
beard.
solved. The other thing is it was everyone's first RPG, and if it's everyone's first RPG,
it's
very difficult
first
to tell
ever.
what rules that are causing you the problem, and a lot of veteran RPG players can kind of transplant rules.
Why do
that
two of
they
them
like
have
from
green
systems
mouth?
that they
Oh,
love,
they're
and
pacifiers.
This is your only RPG. Like, you just play
Also,
with what you got. You don't
question, why are
have,
all their
like,
belly
a
buttons
library of
bleeding
rules
purple?
that you can kind of pour it in.
Just
Anyway,
one of those
that's
random
4th
things.
edition. Those are my memories playing it. Like I said, I like it, but it has problems. There's a reason why when 5th edition came out and said simpler, faster combat, I jumped on it. Really, I think 4th edition was very innovative and had many mechanics that were great and got ported over to other systems.
They probably should have
There were a lot
replaced
of
it faster.
mechanics that just were not good. And then some mechanics I didn't like got ported over as well. But
Only some?
But anyway, I still like it. So that's cool. Those are my memories of 4th edition. Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm going to be completely upfront. I was not expecting Puffin Forest to do a video about like, wow, this is horrible. He's usually very much more upbeat in his videos, and you can even see when he called himself out, I was like, I wanted to like this. But then as he went through the script, he had to throw it out because he remembered how much he hated so much of it. And he still likes it at the end because nostalgia, and yeah, that's perfectly valid. But oh my God, I respect and pity him for having gone through this, because I would have wimped out personally. Like, if I was confronting my nostalgia bias and like remembering how much shit actually happened, I don't even know what I would have to fit in there, because again, I'm making a point not to think about it, and nothing I've pulled up has ever raised to that point. I'm also not specifically talking about Blue Gender, that anime right there. That thing, no. I like the ending. Everything prior to that, I hated. Which is weird that I actually found the ending really good and perfectly fitting for a show that I could not stand. I finished out of spite. And then really liked the ending. I know I'm still weirded out by that. I absolutely love how the anime ended, but everything up to that point, I kind of wanted everyone to die. I was rooting for the sun to explode and to kill everything, because that's honestly kinder ending than everything they had to endure. And I'm kind of sure that's how Puffin Forest feels about 4th edition, because that, it's not even that it's horrible. It sounds like it kind of was. It's that going back is actually poisoning the nostalgia and the good memories he has. Because it's like, oh, okay, everything I like about this had nothing to do with this. It's like playing a really shitty game with people you really like. It's not the game. You could do something fun with them as well, but you're not. Honestly, though, that part where he just came in from the job interview and everyone was just dead to the world, that's painful. That is physically painful to think about. Not to mention, times where that might have happened. I was actually kind of wondering before now, like, if it was that bad, maybe I could go pick up the 4th edition books, try and get into D&D that way, because they're so much cheaper. 1, that was a stupid idea. 2, it was a really stupid idea, and I'm really glad I didn't do it. 3, I'm cheap enough that even though they are that much cheaper, I thought they were too expensive still. it's like I'll splurge on 40K stuff, but when it comes to a D&D book worth $3, yeah, that's a thing. I didn't want to pay that much. And honestly, I think in this case that is actually too much money for what those things turned out to be because well, the formatting was probably nice. No. Basically what I'm trying to say is no. No. I'm glad I didn't get into D&D until now because if I had to go through having an enjoyable third edition with issues but, not perfect, and then 3.5 and then seeing 4 come along the horizon and just years of that, that's disheartening in the extreme. I would pass. So, yeah. Again, if you guys want to subject yourself to that, link below, original video, hit it up because if you don't want to subject yourself to it, just let it play in the background because Puffin Forest had to subject himself to that. That takes respect, man. If you haven't left a like on his video already, just go do that because if I wasn't on a carpeted floor right now, I'd pour one out for my bro. Well, not really bro, and also I wouldn't pour one out because, well, it's water. That'd just be weird. I'll sip one out? No, that sounds even worse. I will respectfully not do something to deface my carpet. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that one either. It's all the same, guys. Link below. You already did it? Great. I'll see you guys in the next one, which hopefully doesn't involve 4th edition in any way, shape, or form.